It was an awful night that Uremma cast a spell on her son, Nnabike, while he was sleeping. Age called Nwoboshi. There lived a pretty kind woman called Ugomma. Her beauty caught the eyes of many eligible bachelors in the village, but she refused their advances towards her. Her reasons for rejecting these suitors was because she never wanted to make a mistake and end up marrying the wrong man that would maltreat her and beat her to stupor. Ugomma was a 31-year-old lady with no husband or child. This made her mother unhappy, as she was worried that her precious daughter refused all the eligible bachelors that asked her hand in marriage. At her age, and her peers were already married with 2 or more children. This her situation made her a laughingstock in the village, as the villagers made fun of her each time she passed by the market square, calling her several degrading names. Okuko Igbo, Agadi Ekwenka. But Ugomma never paid any attention to their side talks. She always carried herself with grace and elegance. One day, as Ugomma was on her way to the market, she followed a shortcut by the bush path. Suddenly, she was bitten by a deadly black mamba snake on her right foot. She fell and screamed for help, but no one could hear her. All of a sudden, her scream attracted a young handsome man called Nnabike, who came rushing to help her. When he got there, he asked Ugomma what happened to her, and she narrated that she was bitten by a black mamba snake. Immediately, he carried her and took her to the village herbalist, whom, after administering some herbs on her foot, she became better, and she thanked Nnabike for saving her life. After a while, their friendship blossomed into marriage, as both were in love with each other. After the successful marriage rites, Ugomma was so happy that she was finally married to the love of her life. They were living peacefully until one day when Nnabike's mother, Uremma, visited her son uninvited. Uremma was a quarrelsome, arrogant woman who was a sadist. The villagers avoided her as she was known for black magic, which she received directly from the river goddess of Nwoboshi, making people fear her even more. On arrival, Ugomma was super excited to receive her mother-in-law with an open heart. She ran and greeted her, but she was pushed away. Nevertheless, it did not stop her, as she went ahead and prepared a sumptuous meal to win her mother-in-law's heart. Uremma, who ate the food in a disgusting manner, complained bitterly to her son Nnabike that his wife's food was tasteless and contained too much water. Nnabike, knowing fully well whom his mother was, did not take the complaint serious. Ugomma's marriage became a nightmare as her mother-in-law made her life unbearable for her. From one complaint to another. "You cannot wash, Bia? Is this how you greet? You good for nothing woman. I don't even know why my son married you, what he saw in you." Ugomma, being a good woman, kept on trying her best to please and satisfy her mother-in-law. But still yet, Uremma was never satisfied with all the effort she made to please her. Ugomma gradually became a maid in her own matrimonial home, with no rest of peace. Every morning, as soon as Nnabike left the house, Uremma would keep sending Ugomma on countless meaningless errands. But Ugomma kept enduring the ill treatment from her mother-in-law just for peace to reign. But one fateful day, Ugomma decided to open up to her husband and narrated all that has been going on in the house in his absence, how his mother has made her married life unbearable. Nnabike was upset with this report and he tried speaking to his mom, but the issue of on how badly she treated his wife in his absence. The next day, as a result of the argument she had with his son, Uremma suddenly cast a spell on her son Nnabike to keep a blind eye towards any evil treatment she melted on his wife Ugomma, not to react or say anything about it. This came to pass as Uremma turned her daughter-in-law into a full-time housemaid. Ugomma suffered each day as her dear husband kept quiet over all the mistreatment his mother melted on his wife. Ugomma never knew that her husband was under a spell. Each passing day, she kept enduring all the torment from her mother-in-law. One day, Ugomma found out that she was pregnant with her first child. She was super excited as she was going to be a mother. She told her husband the good news and begged him to keep it a secret, even from his own mother. Ugomma discovered that each day that passed, she grew weaker, so she decided to leave her matrimonial home to her place until she gives birth. During this her discussion with her husband, Nnabike, she never knew that Uremma, her wicked mother-in-law, was behind the door listening into their conversation. Having realized that her daughter-in-law was pregnant, she plotted ways to terminate the pregnancy. The next day, as Ugomma went to bed, Uremma quietly sneaked into her room and added some blackish substance into Ugomma's food. When Ugomma returned from taking her bath, she ate her food to her satisfaction. Immediately, she started feeling dizzy and eventually slept off. By the time she woke up, it was midnight. She was so upset as she knew that her wicked mother-in-law did something to her food. She got up with rage and confronted her mother-in-law, whom denied all her accusations. Immediately, Uremma started shedding crocodile tears and went into her room. She went further to conjure a second spell that made her son to stop taking care of his wife, Ugomma. This action of his made Ugomma to resort to doing some menial jobs, even with her condition of being heavily pregnant, just to survive, to feed, and to buy her baby things. All her efforts to survive made her mother-in-law, Uremma, to be more angry as all her efforts to frustrate Ugomma, her daughter-in-law, failed. She then decided to cast a spell on the pregnancy to stop the pregnancy from reaching full term. When it was her due date to deliver her baby, disappointed as the baby was not forthcoming, 12 months came and passed and the baby refused coming out. This made her mother-in-law to rain all manner of names on her, calling her a witch that wants to eat up her children. Uremma's plan was to bring another woman for her son to marry. Eventually, Uremma succeeded in carrying out her evil plans. She made Nnabike her son to send Ugomma out of their matrimonial home. On getting to her mother's home, Ugomma narrated all she went through in the hands of her mother-in-law. Ugomma welcomed her daughter with tears in her eyes, having heard all her daughter went through in the hands of her mother-in-law. In the 16th month of Ugomma's pregnancy, she became sick, and this worried her mother, who went to call a strong herbalist in the village. After much examination, he said that Ugomma was under a spell, that she will never give birth, and if she does eventually, she may die in the process. The herbalist also said that the powers embedded in the magic is beyond him. Thus, Ugomma's mother should take her to Moboshi River, as the spell cast on her daughter was associated with the great river goddess, and as such, she needs to undergo some spiritual bath in the river in order to be free. Ugomma's mom did as she was instructed. After taking her daughter for a ritual bath for 3 days in the river, on the 4th day, she began to get well. Soon, she went into labor and she gave birth to a bouncy baby boy. Meanwhile, the woman Uremma brought home for her son to marry was the daughter of a very powerful chief with great magical powers. When Uremma tried to maltreat her, she stood her grounds as she refused to be subjected to slavery in her own husband's home. This boldness of hers irritated Uremma, who tried another means to poison her food. Unknown to her that Nkolika was pretending to be sleeping. After her evil act of food poisoning, as soon as she left the room, Nkolika quickly stood up and exchanged the pot of poisoned food with Uremma's own. The next morning, she happily ate her food with the hope of hearing the news that Nkolika was dead. As soon as she finished eating, she felt a rumbling sensation in her stomach. She screamed, and thus this attracted her neighbors and the entire neighborhood, who gathered around her as she confessed all her evil deeds so far. She confessed how she cast a spell on her son and how she wanted to kill Ugomma and Nkolika. After this her confession, she died on the spot instantly. Immediately, the spell on her son's eyes cleared away, and he realized what wrong he did to his wife Ugomma. Immediately, he went in search of his wife to ask her for forgiveness. On getting to Ugomma's mother's home, he found her breastfeeding a baby boy. He fell on his knees with tears in his eyes immediately and asked for forgiveness. He explained what had happened. He pleaded for forgiveness. Ugomma, being a virtuous and kind woman, forgave her husband, and they lived happily ever after.